Hello Infiniteers, and welcome back to Gusteau's Kitchen. Today we are going to begin hooking up the logic for this toy box, and this will take us a couple of episodes to do because there is a lot of logic. The logic is not difficult. Most of it is just turning radar markers on and off in the right sequence to guide the player through the cooking process. But it's going to take time to hook all of this up, and you should probably expect between this episode and the next to spend around 4 hours or so hooking all of this up. But don't let that intimidate you, and don't let it intimidate you when I show you all of the logic toys that I've placed everywhere. Because again, there's a lot of it, but I'm going to walk you through this step by step, okay? So for today's episode, we are going to do the prep work for the logic. We will set up the level starter, the camera, and replayers for the plating station down there by the red door, the logic that turns the burners on and off, the logic that turns the faucet on and off, and we'll implement the logic for a couple of the easier tasks, like fetching the rats and cleaning up the workstations. And then next time, we will hook up the logic for the extended mission to tie all of that together and cook the 3 main dishes. And that will be the logic that toggles all of the radar markers on and off in the right sequence. Okay, so as we get started, let's begin by reviewing all of the creativity toys that I have placed ahead of time. I placed these ahead to save time. Oh, and by the way, I do not have logic diagrams for today's episode. I was not able to get them done in time, but on Wednesday I will have logic diagrams for everything in this toy box, okay? That'll cover everything I'm showing you in today's video and in the next one. So if you want to wait until Wednesday to watch this video so you can follow along on the diagrams, I completely understand. And I'll try to remember to come back and add the link to the diagrams in this video's description as well as the next one. But if you don't see the link here, just check the next video, okay? Alright, so let's begin. And what I have done, I've placed a trigger area over the start pad here, as well as a locator here inside the tunnel. We have a level starter and a button and an object generator. Over here, this is going to be for the logic for cleaning up the workstations. We have a logic and the narration announcer, which I don't use too often, but I thought it would be fun to use here. For the mission to fetch the rats, we have a friendly wave generator, and it's connected up already to a bunch of locators that I'm going to show you in a minute. We have a radar marker, a sound effect generator. This is from the Gameplay Toys drawer. Almost everything else is from Creativa Toys. We have an action enforcer. And for the locators that I've hooked up to the friendly wave generator, there's one over here on the floor. There's one up here on this stove. There's one over here on the floor by the plating station. There's one on the floor underneath this stove in the alcove. Let's see, there's another one up here on top of this shelf. And there's one over on the sink, right over here, okay? And if you want to hook it up to more locators, you can do that. All right, and then going along with the mission to fetch the rats, we also have a collection pen, which I've placed in the middle of these 3 stoves. We have a locator and a radar marker, okay? At the sink, we have a trigger on top of the faucet, or the knob. We have a locator and a radar marker. We have a effects generator, and this is connected to a locator that is right up here at the bottom of the faucet. On this stove, we have a locator on top of the pot and 4 of them inside the pot in the different corners. And the 4 of them inside the pot are connected to this effects generator here. We have 2 triggers. We've got 2 locators and 2 radar markers, as well as a time delayer. Up here for the lid on the pot, we have a dynamic trigger and a radar marker and a logic and. For our mission giver, we have a locator here, as well as a friendly wave generator, the radar marker, dynamic trigger, and text displayer. 4 standard controls that you got to have for a mission giver. Over at this station, we have another 4 locators inside the pot here, all connected up to this effects generator. And again, you connect those up with the new locator connection. We have a locator on top of the pot, and for the top of the pot we have the dynamic trigger, the radar marker, and the logic and. Again, we have 2 triggers to turn the burners on and off, 2 radar markers and a time delayer, and 2 locators. The cherry is out of the gameplay toys. It's the cherry collectible. Over on this station, again, locator at the top of the pot with a radar marker, dynamic trigger, logic and, locators inside the pot, all connected up to this effects generator. We have a collectible tracker, 2 triggers, 2 two locators with 1 radar marker here, 1 over here. We have an enemy wave generator connected to the locators that you see there, as well as the 2 back here. And another cherry up top. Over at the plating station, you'll notice how we placed the camera. So you have 2 of these blocks, those, and this is sitting on top of that, as well as a locator sitting on top of a block over here. And the blocks are just here to show you where those are placed, okay? So once you have those placed, you can take these out. They're not needed. We have 3 replayers, 1 for each plate. Another cherry back over here. I got a couple of upside down domes, which we'll get to shortly. This is going to be for our bowl of ratatouille that will sit on this plate. We have a cherry over here. And then for each of the ingredients that we need for our cooking, we have a locator, a dynamic trigger, and a radar marker. So you can see we have another locator here with the radar marker, dynamic trigger, another locator up here on the lettuce with a radar marker, dynamic trigger, a locator here in front of the jack-o'-lanterns, which we're using for tomatoes, and these 2 controls go with that. These 2 go with the locator that's going to be on top of that onion dome. Another dynamic trigger radar marker to go with that locator. Then we have another trio of controls here for this, and another trio of controls here for this, which we're using for our olive oil. And another trio of controls over here for the ground beef. I've placed a trigger area here along the ledge hangs, and locators there with an enemy wave generator. Okay, So 10 minutes into the video almost, and these are all of the controls that I've placed. And again, I know that's a lot. Don't panic. We're going to walk through all of this stuff step by step. All right, a couple more things I did. I connected this up to those locators, and on the enemy wave generator, I set the wave, or I did not, but you want to set it to be the evil broccoli, and you want to set this to be 4 of them, okay? And under the properties, just take the generation delay to 0. And then the enemy wave generator over on this stove, this is set to 5 broccolis, okay? And this will be set up the same way, just take the generation delay to 0. All right, and then over here on this friendly wave generator for the rats, I configured this wave to use just 3 rats, okay, 3 sewer rats. And these are near the bottom of the list when you pick it off of that. If you want more rats, that's fine. I think D-Animator had 10 originally in his toy box. I thought that was a bit much. But if you want to bump this up to 5 and do a little bit more hunting, that would be fine. Whatever number you want to set. I think 3 is minimum of what you want, though. And 3 was good for doing the video, the playthrough video, and demonstrating this. And then for the properties on this, you are going to generate at a random locator, take the generation delay to 0. Okay. And then the last thing I did was over here on this friendly wave generator, I configured the wave here for Jiminy Cricket. He's our mission giver, okay? And we'll go ahead and connect him up to that locator. All right. Okay, so those are all the toys that I've done and all the things I did ahead of time. That took about a half an hour to place all of those toys, do the locator connections, and connect everything. So that's where I'm at. Okay, so the first thing we should probably do is hook up our level starter. All right, and let's hook up the level starter to our little locator here, because the player is going to need a jetpack to get around. So on our object generator, we'll connect this up to our locator. And I find with all of the logic that we're doing here, it's probably good to start simple. So on the level starter, we'll do a new logic connection on catalyze. Come over to the object generator, and under packs, you want to select Buzz Lightyear's jetpack. Okay. And if you want to see how this works, you can use a button here. Do a new logic connection. When pressed, start the level starter. And that should put Buzz Lightyear's jetpack right there at the start of that. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now, the next thing you want to do is we're going to want to hide all of these cherries until we're ready for them. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to come over to our collectible tracker here, go into the properties, and for the collectible type, this is strictly for the cherries. And that's really the only collectible we have, but if you want to build on this, you may end up adding more things. So we'll just set this specifically to be the cherry collectible, and we will show them on the radar. And what we can do to hide all of the cherries is just come over to our level starter, do a new logic connection on catalyze, come over to our collectible tracker, and remove all. Okay? And that takes care of those. And you can verify that by coming over here and pushing the button. So you don't have to hide every collectible individually. let the collectible tracker do it. Okay, so you can see we've got our jetpack there now, and we should see a dotted outline around each of the cherry collectibles, and we do. So that's good. Okay. Now, we have a lot of dynamic triggers in this toy box. There is one for every ingredient. There's one for each of the 3 pot lids that we're going to be doing. There's one for the mission giver over here. And so the next thing you're going to want to have the level starter do is turn all of those off. So to do that, you'll come over and do a new logic connection on Catalyze. Come over to each of the dynamic triggers and turn it off. Make that same connection for every dynamic trigger in this toy box. And I'm showing you where they all are again. Okay, so these 2 over here, this one here for the lettuce, those 2 for the tomatoes and onion, this one for the mushroom, this one and this one for the olive oil and that weird lettuce thing, and this one for the ground beef. All right, turn off all of those dynamic triggers. Make that same logic connection to each and every one of those. All right, and that takes care of the level starter. And there's nothing else to do with the level starter. You're basically just invoking this, invoking the collectible tracker to hide the cherries, and turning off all the dynamic triggers. Okay? All right. Now, the next mission's kind of a side mission. This is the first one we'll hook up, and this is the easiest. Okay? And what we're going to hook up here is the little mission to clean up the eggshells on all the workstations. So for each of these, what you're going to do is come over to the eggshell, go into the logic menu, do a new logic connection. When this is broken or collected, come over to our logic and over here and input. Make that same connection for this eggshell, for that eggshell, for that eggshell, for that eggshell, and for that eggshell. And I think those are the only eggshells we put in there. If I missed one and you see it later, hook that up as well. So when it's broken or collected, you connect it up to this logic and when all of those have been broken or collected, this will broadcast the complete signal. And what you'll do is a new logic connection on the logic and when this is complete, come over to the narration announcer and have this say fantastic. Okay? And we can also go to the action enforcer and have the players all celebrate. Okay, and that's it for that little quest. As you find the eggshells, just break them, and when you get them all, the player will do a little dance, and the narrator will say fantastic. And that's really simple and easy to do. Like I said, the logic here is not difficult. There's just a lot of it, okay? That's the easy one. Now let's set up the mission to track all of the rats, okay? So on our friendly wave generator here, I think we already set up the properties, if I remember correctly. We did. All right, so let's come over to the radar marker here now, and we're going to do a new actor connection. Connect that up to our friendly wave generator for the rats. And on the properties for this radar marker, beacon type is going to be a yellow arrow. beacon location will be the connected actor. This is going to be active by default when you come in the toy box, okay? All right. On our sound effect generator here, under the properties, make sure you turn off 3D sound at speaker or locator. All right, and then we have one more radar marker that we want to hook up, and that's the one for the collection pen. So we're going to hook this radar marker up to the locator here. And on the radar marker, we'll go under the properties. For this one, the beacon type is going to be a yellow ring. You could use the yellow arrow if you want. I'll use the ring. Beacon location is the locator, and this will be on by default. So when you come in the toy box, this will be on, because this is the first quest. And now we'll pick this locator up and slide it over on top of the collection pen. And on the collection pen properties, we're going to remove the counted actor. Okay? All right, now we want to kick the mission off when the player starts the toy box. But I don't want to do it with the level starter because we got to come back next time and hook up some more stuff. And you may choose to do this logic over 3 or 4 sessions. I'm doing it in 2 videos. You might want to break it up because you only have a little time here and there to do it. So you don't want to use the level starter to kick this off. You only want to do this when you plan to play the level. And so that's why I'm using the trigger area here over top of the start pad. All right, so when you enter the toy box, it will spawn you on top of the start pad inside this trigger area. And so we can key off of that so that when we walk out of the trigger area is when we kick off the logic for the rats and begin the playthrough. If you come into the toy box but you're going to work on it, then instead of walking off this start pad, go into Spark mode. Open the editor, go into Spark mode, and move outside of that trigger area. And you can get out of the trigger area that way without invoking the logic to kick off the mission. So this is why we're doing that. So on the trigger area, we will do a new logic connection when exited by player any. So if you have multiple players coming in here, the first one is going to trigger this. So when they exit that trigger area, we'll come over to our friendly wave generator and generate the wave. And that will put the rats at random locators, depending on how many you hook up around the toy box. All right? And we only want to do this once. So on the friendly wave generator, we'll do a new logic connection. When the wave is generated, we'll come back over here to the trigger area and deactivate it. Okay? And that'll start the mission. As soon as those are in there, the radar markers will show up on them and away you go. And then the player just goes and collects them, drops them in the collection pen, and because the property is turned on the collection pen to remove the counted actors, it's going to delete them. And so as soon as all of them are deleted, the friendly wave generator is going to know when the whole wave has been defeated, and we will use this to kick off the next part of the mission. So on the friendly wave generator, we'll do a new logic connection. When the wave is defeated, first thing we will do is turn off the radar marker for all the rats. This will kind of disappear automatically because they're gone, but if we turn this off, it won't be using any processing power. Okay? And the next thing we will do on the friendly wave generator is a new logic connection. When the wave is defeated, we'll come over and have the players celebrate. So this is the action enforcer. Next thing we will do on the friendly wave generator is a new logic connection. When the wave is defeated, we'll play a little end of mission sound that I like to play. So that's under musical, and it's the fanfare that I like to play. Next thing we will do So new logic connection. When the wave is defeated, we will turn off the radar marker over here at the collection pen, because we're done with that now. And that wraps up that mission. So you can see that is a very simple little mission. Not a lot of logic to that one either. Okay. The next thing we will do, I think we're going to wait to kick off our mission giver. We'll do that next time. I was thinking I might do that today, but I'm looking at the time and there's a few other things we need to do to set up for the big cooking mission. So we'll save the mission giver for that, because that really is part of that. All right, so this basically is done except to kick off the mission giver. We'll hook that up next time. Okay, next thing we want to do is let's hook up these replayers to put the food in and out, because initially when we come in here, we don't want the things we're going to be cooking to actually be on the plates until we're ready for them. So we're going to come into each of these replayers, take the playback interval to 0. Okay? And then let's come out of the editor. We'll do this replayer first. So we'll step on the replayer. That gets us the little menu in the lower right corner of the screen. On my Wii U, I press B, which is the bottom button on my gamepad, to start recording, and you'll notice the little white dot there turns to a square as soon as I start recording. And then I got to step off this thing to get back in the editor. And all we need to do is pick up our cupcake, put it back, and then come back out of the editor. Step on our replayer. I press B again to stop recording. I'll press A to clear, and that takes the cupcake out. And let me press Y to play it back, make sure it's there. Yep. A to clear. Okay. Make sure you only press A once, or whatever the button is on your controller. All right, for this one, I don't want all the plates to be empty when we first come in, so this is why we have some things on this plate. So I want those there to start with, but I want to take them out when we're ready to start cooking. So that's why we need this replayer. So we'll step on this one. Once again, I'll press B to start recording. Come out of the editor, or come back into the editor, and now I'm going to pick up each of these little pieces here, these little beehives. Be careful to only pick up the beehive and put it back. Don't pick up the plate accidentally. And then do the same thing with the little topiary in the middle. Okay, so I picked up the 4 beehives and the topiary and put them back. Then we'll come back out of the editor, step on our replayer. I press B to stop recording, A to clear. And I'll press Y to play it back, because that's the state that I want to leave that in at the beginning of the toy box. And then last but not least, we'll step on this replayer, press B to start recording, step off, and we'll come pick up our hamburger and put it back. Step back on the replayer to get our menu in the lower right. I press B to stop recording, A to clear. And let me just press Y to make sure it comes back, and it does. I'll press A to clear it, and we're going to leave it in that state. Okay, and there we go. So now the plating station is ready to go. The only thing is the bowl of ratatouille. And I could use a 4th replayer to put that down, but I thought it might be better because I want to have something in the bowl, and the upside down domes here make the best bowl shapes. So for this first one, I've got 2 of them. We're going to use the smashed texture for the contents of the bowl, and I'll apply that theme. And for the bowl itself, just like the ones we put on the shelves up there on the stoves earlier, we'll use the plastic 2 texture. And then to put those down on top of each other and have them offset, we will use a path. So we're going to come up to the Creativitoys, select the path tool. We're going to go to the middle of the plate, right underneath the topiary there. And we're going to go down 3 nudges, which puts this right below the bottom of the table. Place that there. And then the path point will go right up under the topiary there. I'll add my point and then exit. Okay. And on the path properties, we will turn off auto start objects when connected, and I'm going to set the speed to be the maximum of 300 because I want this to appear pretty quickly. Alright, so the first thing we will do is let's connect up this one first. So we'll open the logic menu, do a new path connection. Connect it to our path. And then select our block. Go into the properties. And for the properties on this, let me find my notes. Here we go. We will leave these as they are. The vertical offset we're going to set to 1, and that will raise it up just a little bit. You'll notice it's now up above the path there. The movement style set to 1 way and stop. And then we will connect this bowl up to the path. Select that one. And under here, everything stays the same except movement style goes to 1 way and stop. Oops. Here we go. So when it comes time to put the bowl up there, we just have to do a reset and play on the path. And the bowl will rise up out of the table, and there it is. And because the contents of the bowl is offset vertically by 1, you'll be able to see it'll look like it's soup that's about to spill out of the top of the bowl. It'll look like a full bowl of ratatouille. I don't know if you'd call it soup, but I call it soup. Okay, and that takes care of the plating station. We're just about ready to go with that. The other part of that's the camera. We'll connect this up with a new locator connection to our camera over here. And on the camera properties, we're going to use a defined duration. We're going to set this to 5 seconds. And let me find my settings for the camera here. Here we go. We're going to leave those set the way they are. Glow through, we're going to turn that off. The camera target is going to be the connected locator. And the rest of these we will leave the way they are. Okay, so our camera is ready to go. And that's going to show us when things show up on the plating station and we're done cooking them. Okay, how are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing pretty good. We're a little bit over, but this is good. We're going to be over next week too, but I want to finish the logic up here in 2 episodes and not drag this out. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, and I'll show you how to do this for 1 burner, You can do the other ones yourself. That would be this one over here and this one over here. Okay? And the logic for this is very simple. You're going to come over to the trigger. We'll use the front one to turn it off, the back one, or front one to turn it on, back one to turn it off. So on the front one, let me get my notes here. We're going to do a new logic connection. When this is stepped on by player any, come over to our effects generator. You're going to play looped out of the fire category, smoky flames. Okay? And then the trigger that turns it off, we'll do a new logic connection. When this is stepped on by player any, come over to your effects generator and stop looping the effects. And so this will put the smoky flames at each of the 4 locators underneath the pot. So when you step on that, it turns it on. When you step on this one, it turns it off. So very simple. Make those same 2 connections from these 2 triggers to that effects generator. Front one turns it on, back one turns it off. And the same 2 connections from these 2 triggers. Front one turns it off, or on, back one turns it off. That's going to connect up to this effects generator. Okay? And that takes care of the burners. Those will be ready to go for next time. There's a little bit more that the burners need to do, but that's the main thing. And then for the faucet, we'll hook the radar marker up next time, but on the trigger here, you'll do a new logic connection. When this is stepped on by player any, you want to come over to the effects generator over here, play looped out of the water category, the splashing water. And then on this trigger, a new logic connection. When this is stepped off by player any, go over to your effects generator and stop looping the effects. And again, there's a little bit more that needs to do, but that's the main thing. Wanted to get that hooked up today. Okay. And the last thing we're going to cover today are the ingredients. And again, for each ingredient, you've got a locator, you've got a radar marker, and a dynamic trigger. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do this for one of them. You'll do the same thing for each of the others. And these will show up on the diagrams, the logic diagrams, in a little box for these 3 things that's labeled ingredients. And you'll see that next time. All right, so I'll show you how to hook up one of them. So we've already hooked up the level starter to turn off the dynamic trigger. I had you do that earlier when we connected the level starter. So on the dynamic trigger, we will do a new locator connection. You're going to connect this up to the corresponding locator. On the properties for this, target will be the locator. Trigger distance will be 4. On the radar marker for that ingredient, do a new locator connection, connect it up to the same locator. That's important, because both of these are for the same thing. Under the properties, beacon type will be a yellow arrow. Beacon location will be the locator. Okay, and there's a couple of logic connections we need to make here for this. So on the dynamic trigger, a new logic connection. When this is entered by player any, and the player approaches the ingredient, we will turn off the radar marker, deactivate it, and on the radar marker, a new logic connection. When this is deactivated, turn off the dynamic trigger. Okay? Make that same set of connections for these two with that locator, for these two with that locator, for these two with that locator, 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 and these two with that locator. All right? That's your homework for next time. Basically just hooking up internally the controls for each of those. And next time we'll hook up the logic that's going to turn these things on and off when it's time to go get them. All right, at this point, I think we have everything ready to go to hook up the logic for the main mission, which is to cook the 3 main dishes, the ratatouille, the gourmet burger, and the cupcake dessert. And that's all going to tie into the friendly wave generator over here when the wave is defeated for the rats. We'll kick off our mission giver and kick off the flow of logic for this whole thing. But again, that's going to take time, and so we'll do that all next time. In the meantime, I want to thank you for watching. I'm sure it's probably a little difficult at this point to see how all of these separate things are going to connect to each other, but you'll see that in the next episode, and you won't want to miss that. So if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, be sure to do that before you go. And if you want to see more toy box designs like this, be sure to hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know. I'll see you next time. Take care.